The BRDC British Formula 3 Championship kicks off this weekend at Oulton Park. The cars making their way round to the grid for race 2 of the weekend because they race on Saturday afternoon. The timetable here is qualifying and racing Saturday, a day of rest and recuperation and rebuild if you need it on Sunday, and you go racing again on Monday. And it was the British-based Swiss driver, Clement Novelak, who was the winner on Saturday in a safety car interrupted race from Ayrton Simmons and Jonathan Hogarth. You take the result, you reverse it for race 2, and the cars are being dispatched round to the grid ready for this second of 3 races. This is going to be an absolute stormer, that is for sure, because not only do you get championship points for where you finish, you get extra points for the number of cars that you overtake as well. And it means, based on the reverse of the result of the race on Saturday, that Caleb Frederick, the American driver, new to Oulton Park, driving for the Carlin squad, will be on pole position. And Clement Novelak, race 1 winner, indeed he was on pole position here through qualifying last year. He will start 13th on the grid, as you see there, Pavan Ravichanka, who was one of the drivers involved in the safety car inducing accident on Saturday. David Addison and Andy McEwen trackside as the cars make their way round to the 1x1 staggered grid formation. Everybody in this has the same base car, a Tatius chassis, a Cosworth engine, but then they are run, of course, by individual teams, and that's half of the battle to try and get the best out of the car, team, engineer, driver combination. And we've had some great racing within the British Racing Drivers Club British F3 Championship. It's an MSV operated series, and this season with some familiar names and plenty of new names as well, and it is looking like being another corking year.
Yes, Manuel Maldonado is the highest placed driver from last year's championship to make a return this year. He was 7th in the championship last season, so we're likely to see some new front runners, but that of course is how it tends to work, isn't it, in these junior single-seater Formula E, as drivers use it as a stepping stone on the ladder to, they hope, Formula 1, and this really is the championship to be in the UK. If Formula 1 is where your aspirations are, the BRDC British Formula 3 Championship is an essential rung on your motorsport ladder. So Clement Novelak with lots of overtaking to do, having won yesterday, overtaking at a premium here at Oulton Park in any category of racing. A slicks and wings single-seater formula, all the more tricky to find a way through, isn't it, around here? But you've got little choice really in this reverse grid race. You have to try and make progress.
It is doable, and you can force a mistake out of people, and if you're really brave, it will happen. They're going to get one green flag lap, of course, to get the warmth into the Pirelli rubber on which they all run. So pole position is Caleb Frederick from the American Formula 2000 series. With him at the front of the grid is another of the Americans, in fact, for the R Racing team, Neil Verhagen, or Verhagen, as the green flag is waved. Now, Neil says if you want to appease the Dutch fans, and it's a family of Dutch extraction, it's Verhagen. If you want to appease everybody else, it's Verhagen. So we'll go with Verhagen, if you'll forgive us. Neil Verhagen it is that lines up on the outside of the front of the grid. On the second row, Chris Wright, another American with lots of sports car experience, now coming to single-seater racing, and Josh Mason drives number 21. He will line up 4th on the grid. Josh, a winner, in inverted commas really, last year, because he won a race that was a couple of laps only, and it was all behind the safety car at Silverstone in appalling wet weather at the back end of last year. 5th on the grid is another driver who has been a race winner in the past, Manuel Maldonado. Indeed, he won this equivalent race last year, and then with him for 6th on the grid is Nazim Azman, the Malaysian driver, who's come from the Spanish Formula 4 series. Next on the grid, Hampus Eriksson, who drove in F4 as well as being a podium finisher in this championship last year. 8th is Kian Jewis, the reigning British Formula 4 champion. And let's just confirm the way they line up with this very stars and stripes look to the front of the grid. Caleb Frederick and Neil Verhagen then at the very front. The second row is going to be Chris Wright for Fortec, and Josh Mason, the best placed of last year's race winners, 4th for Lannon. 5th on the grid, number 33, is going to be Manuel Maldonado, and then you've got Nazim Azman starting for 6th on the grid. The next group of cars through will be Hampus Eriksson and then Kian Jewis. Sassoon Chaimon-Cole and Ulysse Depau will be next. Ulysse Depau, another of the newcomers for Douglas Motorsports. Sassoon Chaimon-Cole we had in the championship last year. Then we will have Jonathan Hogarth and Ayrton Simmons. Jonathan Hogarth is another graduate from F4, 3rd in the championship with 8 wins last year in that, so another one to watch. But Ayrton Simmons 2nd on Saturday. Clement Novelak starting 13th with work to do. Pavan Ravichanka, Benjamin Pedersen and Lucas Peterson all involved in the incident, which actually involved Maldonado as well on Saturday, but they are the drivers that have got all the work to do right from the rear of the grid. So the cars now make their way up Clay Hill, trying to get the warmth into the rubber, and then we'll be good to go racing. As I say, Caelan Frederick is the driver on pole position. Trevor Carlin's hugely successful team operates that car, and we will see how he fares over the course of what is going to be 14 laps or 20 minutes, depending on which comes first, because if you get a safety car period, for example, it will probably go to the clock rather than to the number of laps. And there, as the cars come out of Druids, Jonathan Hoggard for Fortec. So it'll be a standing start, 1 by 1 staggered grid, of course, and then we will be good to go with a green nose. Cian Jewis for Douglas Motorsport comes now then down towards the grid, 6th in the Saturday race, and you get fewer points on the reverse grid, but then that's sort of consolidated for by, as I say, the points gained for the number of places that you overtake, and move yourself up from your grid to finishing position, which is a good innovation, isn't it, really, to try and promote overtaking where possible.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a nice way of doing it. I think unique to this championship as well. So yeah, it's a great little system. Cian Jewis definitely one to watch for moving up the order. He's the reigning Formula 4 champion. Indeed, the top 3 drivers from Formula 4 last year are now in the BRDC British F3 Championship. Cian Jewis the champion, Ed Simmons runner-up, and Jonathan Hoggard, who was 3rd, and they were all showing decent pace in Saturday's race. What progress can they make now, though, in the reverse grid?
5-second board is shown. Lights go red. When the lights go out, round 2 of the BRDC British F3 Championship will be go. And a good start is made, not by Jewis, who bogs down a little bit, but by the pack behind, really. But the top 2 already having broken clear down towards Oulton corner. Caelan Frederick, then it is that leads the way with Neil Verhagen in 2nd place. And everybody else safely through Oulton corner downhill for the first time. But Cian Jewis bogged down just a little, and you can see the way. Top 2 have got away already. Lots of brakes lock, and the cars scrabble their way down through Cascades. Josh Mason, I think that was, who's gone backwards off his grid position, but down towards Island Bend for the first time. A very good getaway by Caelan Frederick there, and he, despite being on cold tyres, is trying to push early on and build that advantage, isn't he?
Yes, if he can pull away, then that means less defending later on. Oh dear, contact there. That was the 24 car going up the inside. That was Hampus Eriksson, and who did he tangle with? Chris
Wright, who's in the tyre barrier, I'm afraid. Number 35, Chris Wright, off the road and out of the race. So can he get going from there? Will we need an interruption? Everybody else all squabbling over, what is it, 4th place and back, as they come now out of the Britain chicane for the first time. Actually, that little skirmish has helped Cian Jewis, because 4th he's got himself clear of the pack behind as they drop now down towards the Hislop chicane. Josh Mason is the best of the rest behind him. But yes, off the road, I'm afraid, Chris Wright, who was 3rd on the grid, so he made a bit of a slow start anyway to find himself in jeopardy with cars around him. Number 20 going through there is Benjamin Peterson, another of the Americans, F4 driver in the Douglas Motorsport car. But the leaders are heading down towards Lodge Corner then for the first time, and it is Caelan Frederick from pole position that leads the way. Neil Verhagen in 2nd spot. And where is the race 1 winner? Clement Novalak, then the London-based Swiss driver, trying to get himself up the order. We'll see where he's going to be at the end of lap 1 as the leader goes by then. So Caelan Frederick has 8/10 in hand over Neil Verhagen at the end of lap 1. In 3rd place is Manuel Maldonado. That's Chris Wright, who is out of the race. Cian Jewis is 4th. Josh Mason is 5th. Sasakor Chaimangol is 6th. And up to 7th already from the 13th on the grid is Clement Novalak. So there you go. You can overtake. Yes, all right. He's been helped by 1 or 2 people getting it wrong and going off the road. Into the pit lane comes the battered car of Hampus Eriksson, which might need a new nose cone, but Novalak absolutely flying.
Yeah, 6 places gained on the opening lap, by far the most of any of those that had real work to do from the reverse grid. Maldonado's up to 3rd as well. That's a 3-position gain, and arguably the man to watch now. Then the man 3rd on the road was only 1.6 seconds off the leaders and about 8/10 of a second away from Verhagen in 2nd place. There are the leading trio as they turn through the Britain chicane. A shame that for Hampus Eriksson. He went for the lunge up the inside of the shell hairpin. I noticed he was losing ground after that, so suspected there was damage, and indeed appears to be the case. So they drop down the hill through the Hislop chicane. Cian Jewis in 4th is actually going after Maldonado here. A lock up there for Mason, that is, the 21 car going into the chicane. Now he's under quite a bit of pressure here. Sasakor Chaimangol right behind him, and then race 1 winner Clement Novalak. So he's the 3rd car in that train as they rise Clay Hill underneath the pedestrian bridge. Replay of the start here, David.
Yeah, replay of the start. Excellent getaway by Caelan Frederick. Cian Jewis, not a brilliant getaway, but I think the one that really lost out, Chris Wright, he was quite slow, wasn't he? And therefore you can see number 35 drops into the pack. Josh Mason, who was alongside him, didn't exactly storm away either, but that was Eriksson. I'm not really sure that move was on. There was just about room, but he was going in rather overly rapidly, clashes into the side of Chris Wright and right off the road, but then the bite a bit because Ericsson has to make a pit stop anyway. So Caelan Frederick leads and he's getting away. He's done the fastest lap of the race, although he had done until Verhagen went across the line 100th quicker. The rest of the field file through. Maldonado, Jewis, Mason, Cole, Novalak, DePauw, Hoggard, Annette and Simmons rounds out the top 10. Now, of course, as you get into the race and the gaps start to open up, it's that little bit harder to do the overtaking, to make progress. Now, false start penalties are coming. One of them goes to Chris Wright. Well, it doesn't matter because he's out of the race anyway. And 45 Sessakorn Chimon, who was in 6th place. So that's another one just gained, therefore, by that man, the Saturday race winner, number 17, Clement Novalak.
Oh dear, so we said that Chalmon Cole had made some progress on the opening lap as well as Novalak. Novalak now gains another position on the road. The trouble is, Chalmon Cole is still very much in front of him on the circuit. He needs to get past him on the track before he can even think about getting past the 21 car in front of him, Josh Mason. That's the trio of cars we can see descending upon the Hislop chicane. Mason appears to be the cork in the bottle here as well, because the next little group are catching as well. Powell, Hoggard and Simmons, so another couple of quick drivers at the tail end of that particular group. They're all sort of bunching together now and allowing the top 4 drivers to escape. There is the 4th place man, Kian Jewis, rounding Druids, closing in now ever more onto the tail of the red and white number 33 of Manuel Maldonado, a distinctively liveried number 87 car. In 4th position, Kian Jewis, the champion in the British Formula 4 Championship in 2018, and seems to have made the transition into these Formula 3 cars very well indeed. We've seen it done before by drivers making fairly meteoric progress up through the single-seater racing ranks even. Kian Jewis definitely another of those drivers destined for big things, I think.
Indeed so. Staying with the single-seater route, some get to this level and then deviate towards sports car racing, but Kian Jewis staying in single-seaters, the reigning British Formula 4 champion, and he's on the attack, isn't he, now, to see whether he can have a go at Maldonado there. Drifts the car through Island Bend. Manuel Maldonado then in 3rd place. The gap between the two at the start of this lap was only half a second. Well, now, yes, Jewis looks like he's got the speed, but he's got 2 problems. One is the dirty air, the other is the lack of width of the road to get past. So where, if at all, can he make the move? Maldonado, we know, does have his occasional moments. He had one on Saturday. So can Jewis apply the pressure enough to force open the door? They're almost level as they come over Hilltop down towards Hislop. Maldonado sits on the inside line, covers that off. Jewis slots in behind him. They go right, they go left, and it's right again into Knickerbrook. And Maldonado using a little bit more room here. He looks the slightly untidier of the two.
Yes, indeed, and he'll be feeling the pressure now, seeing that green car weaving around in his wing mirrors will possibly create a distraction. That could lead to a mistake, and it could lead to the overtake. So Kian Jewis hopes. This is a great little battle, though, only half a second separating them as they headed across the start-finish line, nearly a lap ago. It will be much the same now. Kian's not going to get any closer without going through, I don't think, here. Has a peek to the inside. I don't think he was ever really close enough there, but again, just trying to make Manuel Maldonado think that the move was coming, maybe make him just roll off the brakes fractionally too long and run into the corner a bit hot, but there is still no way through, and the gap comes down fractionally, but Jewis now just under 4/10 of a second behind as they head towards Hall Corner. Mason is still 5th, by the way, so he's keeping Chalmon Cole and Novalak at bay. After that really quick start, Clement Novalak finding now that overtaking is indeed a little bit easier said than done around this circuit. He'll be grateful, I think, to take whatever points he can out of this race. So too will Maldonado. After his dramas yesterday, he'll want the podium place, but you know, as long as he gets his elbows out, it looks like he may well be able to fend off Jewis here. Jewis is right with him. How much of a risk does Kian take here? 4th place is not a bad result, but 3rd is even better.
Indeed so, he wants the points, but you're right, he doesn't really want to put himself in jeopardy with another race still to go. The grid for which, by the way, a change against previous years. It's your 2nd best lap in qualifying, not the fastest lap of the previous 2 races. So over Hilltop they come. Kian Jewis then running in 4th place. Manuel Maldonado keeping out of strife today, unlike Saturday. He's there in 3rd. Up front, heading for a maiden F3 win. Caelan Frederick 2 seconds clear of Neil Verhagen now. 5th is Josh Mason, who's still being chased by the penalised Chimon Cole. And then it's Novalak, DePauw, Hoggard and Simmons rounding out the top 10. But at the moment, 2 seconds between the top 2. Kian Jewis is the man most likely to, but having had a couple of laps tucked under the rear wing of Maldonado's car, sitting in the dirty air, making his hard to drive. He's giving his tyres a breather. Just backs off, loses a length or so, will regroup as the leader goes by them. So Caelan Frederick goes through, looking very strong up front, and the gap is building, in fact, because he has now done the fastest lap of the race at 1:31.6. He is building the advantage all the while over Neil Verhagen. Rest of the pack comes charging through with Mason, Charman, Colt, Novalak, DePauw, Hoggard, Simmons, Pedersen, Asman, all in a line. They're going through is Nazim Asman, but Caelan Frederick, the man in charge at the moment, by 2.4 seconds. 6th in the US Formula 2000 Championship last year, so a comparable car, 2-litre engine, slicks and wings, and he leads the way. But look at this great line of cars charging towards Island Bend at the moment, in the midst of which is Novalak, looking for more places, looking for more points.
Yes, indeed, and all it will take is a small mistake from any one of those drivers and it could all really kick off, because they're all sort of on top of each other, aren't they? It's Josh Mason who is at the head of the train, turns through Britain's now, 45 car behind him is the penalised Charman column. Because everyone's so close together, that 10-second penalty will put him right to the back, 14th place out of the 15 runners, because Hampus Eriksson has rejoined, but 2 or 3 laps down after that nose change. And indeed, we've got another one stopped.
That's a Dittman car, isn't it? So it's either Asman or Simmons, I would offer you. Nazim Asman or Simmons. Etton Simmons, I fear, from 10th place. Now, how did he get there is the next question. Is it a mechanical drama? Has he had an off? We'll try and piece it together as the leaders come up towards Deer Leap once more. There is Manuel Maldonado, still going strongly in that 3rd place. And actually, he's gapping Cian Jewis, isn't he now? So the leaders are extending the advantage. 2.7 seconds between Caelan Frederick and Neil Verhagen. In 3rd place, it's Manuel Maldonado. 4th is Cian Jewis. Gap back to the survivors for 5th, Josh Mason. In 6th place is on the road, Charman Cole. 7th is Clement Novalak then. So, as I say, Swiss passport holder, Swiss born, but lives in London, runs under a British licence, but it's Swiss really, and comes down towards Cascades, inching up onto the back of Charman Cole, but he'll inherit the 6th place anyway, given the penalty at the end of the race. And the penalties are applied afterwards, not during, just in case that offers confusion should you end up with a safety car period.
Yes, indeed. But the frustration here for Novalak is that he can see Josh Mason, and that would be 5th position. But to get there, he has to find a way past Charman Cole, who outbreaks himself rather there into the shell hairpin under the yellow flags, which will go down well. That is the reason for the yellow flags, because that is where the stricken car of Ayrton Simmons is. It has closed up a little bit here, so maybe there was a mistake there for Charman Cole. He's got a good exit from Britain's. This is as close as he's been, I think, to Josh Mason, and Josh knows it. Moves over to the right-hand side of the road, our left, and forces the attacking car to go to the outside line, and it's almost impossible to do that. You can, in theory, go around the outside of the right hand to get the inside for the left, but you're always running the risk of banging wheels or breaking your front wing, puncturing tyres as a result of that contact. It's probably not a risk worth taking at this stage, with the fact that there's another race later on very much in their mind as well. They don't want to give the teams too much work to do. They tend to get a bit grumpy when you do that.
I just wonder whether it was a mistake by Mason or whether he slowed more under that waved yellow. But you're right, the gap was certainly down, and Charman Cole now has lost a length, give or take, coming down towards Lodge Corner. He's got Clement Novalak behind him. Race leaders, incidentally, have now put 7 laps in the book, and the gap is going up markedly. 3 seconds now. Another new best lap by Caelan Frederick as the tyres get warm and the fuel load comes down over the timing line here. Mason, Charman Cole, and then Clement Novalak. I just wonder whether Clement Novalak is being fairly canny about this, waiting for the accident to happen up the road ahead of him, because they're getting ever more fractious, these two, as they are determined, Mason and Charman Cole, to be ahead of the other. Novalak might be doing the right thing, just lagging back a little and seeing what pans out ahead of him. There goes Cian Jewis, still 4th. He's closed up again, though, to Maldonado. This is the 2nd attack.
Yeah, absolutely. He's given his tyres and his brakes little chance to cool back down into their operating window. If they get too hot, then they start to lose efficiency, lose performance. So he's backed off and is now having another go at this. Sometimes this tactic works. It's often, particularly here at Oulton Park, having seen a race or two here over the years, I have noticed this happen, where sometimes it's better to arrive with a bit of momentum rather than be sort of stuck on the gearbox of the car in front for lap after lap after lap, because what happens then is you get stuck running at their pace and you aren't really any quicker than them at any particular part of the circuit. So sometimes dropping back by 6 or 7 tenths, cooling the tyres off, and then arriving with some speed can often lead to a better overtaking opportunity. Cian is in the process of closing back up now. He's not really close enough into Lodge Corner, though. The trouble with Lodge is, whilst it's arguably the best overtaking opportunity on the circuit, it comes after one of the fastest corners on the circuit, the double apex right-hander at Druids, and that is where the dirty air is a little bit more of a hindrance. So Cian, whilst he was within a car length or so of Maldonado going into the braking zone, that was arguably a car length or so too far back to realistically make the move, but he's on it. You can see the hands busy on the wheel as he rattles over the curb through Old Hall Corner, down the avenue, through the right-hand kink at Denton. There's a nasty bump under braking for Cascades, which is cambered, and then the camber sort of falls away on the exit of the corner. Many a driver has understeered wide onto that very bumpy grassy runoff area on the exit of the corner as a result of that. Both of these drivers negotiating it perfectly, though, but the gap, I would say, is now creeping back up again.
I think you might be right. Cian Jewis has a go, doesn't pay out for him, so back to plan B. It could be that now, because we're on that 9 of 14, he thinks, well, I might as well just go for the points. But that's why you have this overtaking bonus point system, to try and stop drivers thinking like that and keep them on their toes, because the points scored for overtaking could well be important in the championship at the end of the year. So as the cars then now come out of the British chicane, there are little battles still to be resolved. You've got Eunice DePauw in 8th, Jonathan Hogarth 9th. Into the top 10 has now come the American Benjamin Pedersen, taking over the 10th place after Ethan Simmons retired. As round the outside, Chimon Cole goes ahead of Josh Mason. That opens the door possibly now for Novalak to come and have a go. He's got the run going up towards Druids. Clement Novalak will line up, no doubt, to have a go on the inside line, but no, he has to slot back in, pulls out again and has a look. He's up the curb. The last thing he needs here is wheel banging to go off the road. So just Josh Mason hangs on to the place, and Clement Novalak, having had a go which didn't work, he's coming under attack, because first of all onto his tail comes Eunice DePauw, and in turn behind him the Jonathan Hogarth now. Yeah,
it's one of those pressure cooker races, isn't it? As soon as one overtake was executed successfully, it backs the whole pack up. It frees up the car that made the overtake, but everyone else then is sort of right on top of each other. Eunice DePauw now defending into Old Hall Corner, the wide line in for Jonathan Hogarth. Sometimes can lead to the tight line out, but there's no way of getting alongside down the avenue. How about Cascades? There's not much braking done into that corner in these high downforce single-seaters. The number 20 car is the orange machine running a bit wide there. That was Ben Pedersen, and that could open the door for the Nazim Asman machine to get up the inside at Island Bend. I don't think, no, he wasn't quite able to do it. They're still single file, so one position lost then for Josh Mason, and now Clement Novalak really could do with getting on with this. He's clearly a little bit quicker. I think Josh may be a little bit rattled as well after being overtaken around the outside at Knickerbrook, which is not something you see done all that often. And of course now we're heading down to that same piece of tarmac again, and once more he's on the defence, because Novalak goes to the outside line, they're wheel to wheel down into the braking zone at his lot. Clement would be a brave man to go right round the outside, but some would say a foolish man as well to do it, because as you made the point, he's scoring good points here, and he is scoring the most overtaking points, if you like, of anyone out there as well, with those 6 or 7 positions that he's gained from his starting place. So in a way, he doesn't need to go for this, but he's being backed into the pack behind, and that brings its own risks.
Now Josh Mason now under attack. Down they come towards Lodge Corner. Josh had a sizable accident in the MRF Challenge races, or one of them, in Madras in February, but back in the car that he knows, having raced them last year. He was making strides forward race by race by race last season. But Clement Novalak, very, very impressive here 12 months ago. Did a part season in F3, and of course a race winner on Saturday. So he knows Oulton Park well enough. He knows what he's doing in these cars, and there he is applying the pressure. Now we're on to lap number 11 out of 14. We've got 4 minutes to go. It could end up being a timed race. This, we'll wait and see where the race leader is relative to the clock. Can they squeeze the 14 laps out of it? Out of Cascades, along Lakeside Straight, but look at the way that Caleb Frederick is going. He has disappeared up the road, hasn't he? There is a rather lonely Neil Verhagen in no man's land. He's not catching and he's not being caught. And these two are nearly in race 3, so far ahead of Manuel Maldonado Alve, because he is a further 4 seconds adrift of the second place car.
Yes, and in fairness, whilst Maldonado has had constant pressure from Cian Jewis, it's not like he's been overly defending and holding himself up. This is, I think, genuine pace from the two Americans out in front that have allowed them to build up this rather comfortable margin. But Maldonado, in turn, has now got a little bit more breathing room over Jewis. The gap at the line was 8.5 tenths of a second. What's going on behind? Quite a lot by the looks of it. It is still Josh Mason in 6th position that will become 5th post-race with that 10-second penalty for the car in front of him with Sascord Chamankal. There is Sascord. Look at the gap that he's pulled out now. He only made that move a lap or so ago, and he's really started to stretch the margin. An attempted move up the inside there at Druids. That was Asman on Pedersen. That was maybe not the best idea, because he didn't make the move stick and subsequently lost momentum on the exit of the corner, and that could bring Ravishankar onto his tail into the braking zone at Lodge Corner. Across the line we go then, onto the 12th lap of the race. I tend to agree with you, David. I don't think we're going to get all 14 in. We should have time for 2 more, though, so maybe a 13-lap race at this rate, because the leader is down at Cascades Corner, and there are 2.5 minutes left on the clock. This is the battle pack, isn't it, really? Something is likely to happen here in the remaining 2 laps. The question is who are going to be the winners and who are going to be the losers. But they're very close together, aren't they?
Absolutely. And again, who are the brave ones, who are the committed ones early season, or who are thinking, no, bank the point, keep out of trouble. Josh Mason under attack. Now, he's lost out once to Chimon Colin. You can see the way that Sassakorn has disappeared up the road. So now, can Clement Novalak force a little mistake, find a way by? Let us see. Josh Mason there, look, rattles over the curb as he comes now down towards Britons, up towards Hilltop. There, look, it's Sassakorn Chimon Colin getting away all the time. Mason, Novalak, then Ulysse de Pauw next in the queue as they break, turn right, turn left through Hislops, then into Knickerbrook Corner. Speed building as they climb the hill, and Novalak is drawing nearer, isn't he? So it's game on here. If he gets a good run through Druids, he might be able to attack on the run down towards Lodge Corner.
I'll tell you what, they're not shy of their curb use at the British chicane, are they?
No.
You'd have thought they might choose to steer clear of the more severe sausage curbs, but they're hammering over them here in the latter stages, just trying to find every bit of speed they can. There is still, though, no way through here for Novalak. He's into 7th. That, as we said, will more than likely become 6th place, although with Chimon Colin escaping up the road, he is now starting to potentially gain positions, net positions, once we apply that 10-second penalty. But I don't think he's going to be able to get into the top 5 outright. Novalak actually dropping back across the line that time, almost into the clutches of Ulysse de Pauw behind him. Ulysse de Pauw, excuse me, behind him in 8th position, then Hogarth 9th and Asman 10th. The race leader, though, for I suspect the final time, is heading towards the Britain chicane. That's Caelan Frederick. This has been a textbook race, really. Got off the line well, built the early gap so that he was out of attack range from the cars behind, and really has just had to stroke it home. He set the fastest lap as well, 1 minute 31.567, which is actually only a couple of tenths off the fastest lap on Saturday, excuse me, which was set by Caelan. He is a man on form this weekend, isn't he?
Absolutely right. So very impressive, given that he's not raced here before. So Caelan Frederick with 4.5 seconds worth of margin. Don't forget, they're all in identical cars, and you can't say that Verhagen got stuck with a battle. He's just lost that time, hasn't had the pure pace of Caelan Frederick. So it is the Carlin car in the lead. It's Double R Racing in 2nd place, and Caelan Frederick is going to be touch and go this. He's got 4 seconds on the clock. Is the checkered flag out for him? Let's see. The clock hits 0 now, and there is the checkered flag. Yes, at the end of lap 13, over the timing line to take the win is Caelan Frederick. In 2nd place, it is Neil Verhagen, and 3rd, Manuel Maldonado should be. There he is, just ahead of Kian Jewis. The gap, 0.3 of a second at flag 4 between them. Now 5th is where it gets a little bit more confused, because Sassakorn Chimon Colin is 5th on the road but will get a penalty, so Josh Mason will get his 5th place back. Clement Novalak will be 6th as he comes across the timing line. 7th, therefore, will be de Pauw. Up to 8th should go Hogarth, up to 9th Nazim Asman, but we'll hopefully have a confirmed top 10 shortly once the penalty is applied. But chapeau to Caelan Frederick there, because not a wheel wrong, perfect drive, and the way that he continued to build and build and build the gap, and he did the fastest lap of the race. First visit to Oulton Park, hugely impressive. A job very well done indeed. And interesting, isn't it, that you've got 3 drivers out of America all at the front of this admittedly reverse grid race, but single-seater drivers from the States coming over to Europe, and there is one of them, Caelan Frederick, doing an absolutely storming job to win race 2 in this year's championship.
We must say, though, that the fact that Caelan set the fastest lap on Saturday as well, I presume he's going to have this pace throughout the rest of the season, so maybe it was a case of a slightly off qualifying result initially that put him back in the pack for race 1. He was able to do the job in the 2nd race, and there is confirmation, nearly a 5-second advantage at the checkered flag, David.
Caelan Frederick wins round 2 of the BRDC British F3 Championship from Neil Verhagen. The gap at the flag, 4.9 seconds. Manuel Maldonado for the podium, 3rd ahead of Kian Jewis, and then Josh Mason. It's Clement Novalak, 6th ahead of Ulysse de Pauw, Jonathan Hogarth, Nazim Asman, and then the top 10 completed by Benjamin Pedersen. 11th, it is where you find the Swedish driver Lucas Pettersson. Behind him, Pavian Ravashankar. The penalty puts Sassakorn Chimon Colin down to 13th. Hampus Eriksson pitted and therefore was a long way back. Ayrton Simmons we lost, and so too Chris Wright, the other retirement from race number 2. A look at the best bits. Great getaway by Caelan Frederick, stormed away from the 1x1 grid. The 2nd row and back were those that were a little bit sluggish away, and so the top 2 already had an advantage going through Old Hall Corner for the first time. Josh Mason and Chris Wright were amongst those that lost out. Wright then lost out completely when he got hampus, because Eriksson muscled his way up the inside. He was elbowed wide over the grass and into the tyres. Hampus Eriksson ended up in the pit lane for a new nose cone. But after that, Josh Mason came under attack from Sassakorn Chimon Colin, who got a penalty for a full start anyway. Mason lost the place on the road, gained it back on corrected time, that place being 5th. But away and gone while all that was happening was Caelan Frederick, as he took from pole position a race win and the fastest lap as well to win from Neil Verhagen and Manuel Maldonado in 3rd at the end of another all-action round of the BRDC British F3 Championship. More later in the day. For now, from Andy McEwen and David Addison, it's goodbye.